again, and I have nobody to thank. Once again, I did it all by my sweet little self.
But fear not, because I, the Blue Blazer, will always triumph over evildoers.
But I too have my own unique style to beat you guys 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, and that's my strategy, and that's what's gonna get me to the top.
2-time Slammy Award winner! I knew it! I'm a winner! I did it! Woo!
Hello, this is Missionary from Wrestling Soup, and JT Evans from False Count Radio.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Owen Hart Tribute Radio Show. Currently, on the line, we have with us, he is the oldest son of Stu Hart. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the air, Smith Hart. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, JT.
So we are here on this tough day. Of course, today marks the 11th anniversary of Owen Hart's passing. Owen was very close to you being a family member. Is there any memories that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh, there's plenty of memories and fun stories as well, despite the the somber nature of the occasion. But Owen was all of us sort of. You ask Bruce, if you ask Keith and Wayne, they'd all say Owen was their best brother. You know, he was such a good representative of the family. And I heard your tribute earlier, and I really liked that interview that Owen did. That, he was so intense. When he hooped like Ric Flair, he screamed it out. Like Owen knew what he was doing, and no doubt he'd be still a superstar. He would have never. I think he would have stayed with the business and succeeded beyond everybody's wildest dreams, including his own. Like he was actually someone who was trying to get out of the business most of the time, but they kept doubling his salary, or damn near, and he was like, "I got to keep wrestling." And he loved what he did. I think there's certain aspects of the wrestling business that were sort of in flux then, and he may have not liked everything, but he was good at what he did, and he knew he was good, and he was a modest person as well. He wasn't a giant and all that, but he was underrated, and he hadn't even reached his prime.
Now, we've talked to a lot of different people about this, and a lot of them shared stories about pranks and such. Is there any ribs that you remember right offhand?
I remember one was involving the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, and I think he was Intercontinental Champion, and he had got the agent to give him permission to go much earlier so he could catch a much earlier flight, probably back to Florida at that time. And he was gloating so much about it. He should have just quietly, gone on early and had his match and left. But no, he was gloating about it, and Owen thought this deserves a rib. So while Davey was showering after his match, Owen locked his bag to a locker, chained it on with a big padlock, and by the time Davey got a hold of a janitor with bolt cutters, he ended up missing his flight. So he's sitting at some airport till about 4 a.m. when a good number of the other wrestlers that were going that way showed up, and they all upgraded their seats to first class. So Davey missed the boat on that. He went to do that, and there were none left. So he not only waited for about 10 hours doing nothing, but he had to sit with in a crowded passenger zone. And so Owen wised up one of the flight attendants, said, "There's a guy here that looks like one of the British Bulldogs." And the guy says, "He is Davey Boy Smith." And Owen says, "Oh, no, he's not. He just really looks like him. And he's a good bodybuilder and stuff, but it's not Davey Boy Smith. But he follows the wrestlers around. He's a total groupie. But if he wants to come up and say hi or something, it's all right with me. But if he's too much of a pest, I'll tug him on my ear. I'll give you a signal, and you can have him sit down." So when it was at the right time, when you could unfasten your seatbelt, someone went back and said, "Hey, Davey, I got some stuff from Japan. They got you and Dynamite in it," and on and on. He did have a magazine with such material in it, so there's nowhere to sit. And Davey Boy's leaning over his seat, looking at this stuff, and as soon as Owen could give the signal, he gives the signal to the flight attendant. So the guy comes over, "Sir, you have to sit down." And Davey protested, and the guy insisted he had to sit down. So Davey sits down again, and later Owen got him back again and said, "It's night, it's dark now, nobody's even watching. Like, come on back. Everybody's sort of off off-duty kind of thing. And again, he did the same thing and had, this time Davy's protesting, and the guy says, "Sir, I'm going to call security, you sit down, sir," and all that. And Davy kind of knew Owen did it, and Owen went back one more time and said, "Come on back, Davy." Davy said, "Fuck you, Owen." So that was sort of funny.
That is funny. Now, we are going to be taking calls from people in the chat room, so if anybody has a story or memory of Owen that they'd like to share, they can call in on the server at 347-994-2320. I did want to go ahead and play one clip that we already got, and that was from Jimmy Corderas. All right, and we are here on this Owen Hart tribute celebration of Owen's life. And on the air with me, I have former WWE referee Jimmy Corderas. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Could be better, but of course, we've got to be happy on this broadcast. Is there any ribs, road stories, or memories that you would like to share with our listeners about Owen?
Well, he got me one time. We were at a hotel, and I can't exactly remember where it was, but I remember it was like 12:30, 1 o'clock at night, and, we just got back to the hotel, and it was late, and we just finished eating, and I got a call in my room telling me that my credit card had been rejected for some reason. And after a few minutes of arguing with this fellow on the phone, he suggested I come down to the front desk and straighten things out. So I, put on a pair of shorts and a T-shirt, and I head down to the front desk. And, of course, I get to the front desk, and they have no clue what I'm talking about. I said, "Well, you guys called me and said my credit card's not." And he said, "No, sir, nobody called you." Found out the next day it was Owen. just yeah. Yeah. And the way I found out was, it was kind of like, "Hey, did you get a call last night saying that your credit card was no good?" I said, "Yeah, how did you know?" And he started with, "Well, they called me too, but,
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So he did get me. It was nothing malicious. It wasn't, it was good fun. I laughed about it. What are you going to do,
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff he did. He was not, like I said, he was not malicious with any of his ribs. His ribs were actually quite funny and hilarious and not harmful in any way. So,
now, if you could have the fans remember Owen for one thing, what would it be?
Just that he was probably one of the best guys you'll ever meet, inside and outside the business. It doesn't matter whether it was a wrestling business or just average Joe on the street. He was just that kind of guy. He was the kind of guy that, I dare someone to say anything, remotely bad about him, because no one has anything bad to say about him. He was just that good a guy. And it's, I know it sounds very cliche, but that he really was. He really was a good guy who cared deeply about his wife and his family, and that's the thing I'm going to remember most about him.
Now, one other question I had for you is, is there anything that Owen said to you, during your run with WWE while he was there that really sticks in your head?
We've had a few conversations. We were very friendly with each other. He was very friendly with me, but probably the best advice he gave me was to make sure that I take care of my family, and that family always comes first. And I've always remembered that, and I'll never forget that he told me that.
After the horrible accident and the tragedy, it's really surreal going back and thinking about it just as a fan. But I can't even imagine what the thought was of, just the guys behind the ring and everything else like that. Did you guys even believe what was going on, or?
Yeah, of course, the initial reaction was shock, and for me, being in the ring, I just really was in a state of for lack of a better term, total confusion. Like I knew something was happening, and it how it doesn't clue in right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like you feel like it just, what the heck just happened here, and you're not really. It's almost like 100 things are rushing through your head, and you can't put any of it together. Everything seems so scrambled, and you don't know how to react, and you don't know what to do next. And that, unfortunately, that was my initial reaction. It was so, like you said, it was so surreal.
Yeah.
That I at first didn't know how to react, and then it was just after that, it was just, oh my God, please get somebody out there. Then you start to, it takes a while, but you start to clue in after a while. But like you said, the initial reaction was total confusion, not sure how to react and not sure what exactly had happened.
Yeah, it was tragic from all angles. I mean, I can only imagine how hard it was for everybody behind the scenes, but I mean, even for the fans when we realized, what was going on. But it's a good time to talk about, Owen. And I just was, curious about what your thoughts were during that moment, only because you were at the center right there. So
yeah. And I didn't find out till the next day that Jerry Lawler actually saw the last, I guess he said the last 15 feet or so of his fall.
Wow.
So he might be one of the few people who really knows what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Not in terms of the accident, but as far as him, as far as
right.
Owen hitting the ring and that sort of thing, which, like I said, I didn't see. So,
what was some of the most inspiring moments that you saw Owen do or perform over his career? I mean, it's no secret that he was really nice with everybody. Kids, he loved kids. What was one of the most heartwarming moments you remember about Owen?
The biggest thing was, no matter it was just his attitude and the way he carried himself. It rubbed off on everybody. I mean, like, no matter what kind of a mood you were in, if it was one of those days where everybody was in, like, just didn't feel like doing much, and he just lifted everybody around him. It was just, he had that kind of personality, and not only his in-ring work, which was fantastic, of course, but like I've been trying to say right now, is it was his total attitude. He just lifted everybody's spirits all the time. I mean, the way he carried himself.
Thank you very much from me. It's been a pure pleasure talking to you, Mr. Cordes.
Well, Jim, please. Yeah.
I would like to thank you for coming on and sharing these stories.
No, my pleasure. Anytime, guys. Anytime.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Wow. He had such touching stories. Smith, is there anything you want to add to that?
Well, it was a real pleasure to meet Jim Corderas. I met him at an independent show, and then a few days later I met him at at Raw, and he had nothing but good stuff to say about Owen and basically the family. And while you were talking, I thought of another thing that was very funny that Owen did with the Iron Sheik, and this was when the Iron Sheik was kind of retired, but they wanted some, legitimate wrestlers to go for a European tour. They were going to use some local guys in Europe as well as the WF guys coming. So they resurrected the Sheik. Anyway, I think it was in Manchester, and Owen had a room right next to the Sheik in the hotel, and he judged it. He probably formulated the idea and then waited for the right moment to spring it. But after the Sheik was all just ready to go to bed, and he called up with very effervescently with a very perfect British accent, about this guy was so sorry he was late, he'd missed the matches, and he's got a big picture. It's going to be in all the national newspapers on the headline. It's going to be a front page picture. This great champion, former world champion, the Iron Sheik, and all that. And the Sheik says, "No, I'm tired. I'm going to bed." No, this guy pumped him. Owen pumped him, good as this reporter saying, "Well, you beat Bob back when you this, you that, on and on." So he won the Sheik over with, he got to his ego. And the Sheik, okay, and he says, "So you got to come down with all your, boots and the whole bit on, the whole outfit. And, and I'm going to have a picture of my kid camel clutching you and this and that. And you can have all of, I'm a prize-winning photographer and on and on. I got the whole crew here." So the Iron Sheik finally reluctantly agrees to go down and do this. And when he gets down there all dressed up with the full outfit and the burnous and the headdress and everything, he's nobody there, And he asks the desk clerk, "Where's the people that are going to take the pictures of him and stuff?" And they look at him like, "What? Go back to bed, you clown." So he goes back up the stairs with the big curly-toed boots and everything, wondering what's going on. And about 5 minutes later, Owen made sure that he had taken the boots off, kind of, you could sort of tell that the Sheik was undressing. Finally, calls back, and "Where are you? We're waiting. What's going on?" "My wife's here." And the Sheik says, "I was there." And he said, "Well, I was getting the equipment. This is a big show, big production. It's big color photography. We're all set now. Come on down." He got him to put everything back on and come down one more time, and again there was nothing there, and the Sheik just looked around and scowled, didn't bother asking the desk clerk. He knew it was Owen. He stomped up the stairs and slammed the door, and Owen just quietly left him for the moment. The next day he brought it up, something about, I forget how he would have brought it up, but that was funny because, it takes a bit of doing to get the Sheik to, with his bad back and everything, lace up those 42 eyelets on each boot, and go all the way down, like a ham, and asking the desk, where's everybody, they're taking pictures of me, and they say, no, they're not, show's over, buddy, you fly out in the morning, go back,
Now, we do have some callers on the line who want to share some stories. All right, caller from the 516, you were on the air.
Yeah, I would say my favorite Owen story is probably when Triple H made fun of him when he was part of the Nation of Domination, and I forget the guy who did the exact voice of Owen Hart, and Owen Hart couldn't stop laughing at it.
Jason Sensation?
Yeah, Jason Sensation. Is there any other memories that you'd like to share?
Yeah, my other favorite memory is back in, I would say, the early part of the 90s when I went to a wrestling when I was in the Cub Scouts, and Owen Hart took my whole Cub group backstage, and Owen Hart gave us a Canadian flag signed by him and Bret Hart and the whole family, and I remember Owen Hart's famous last words to me were to wish me the best luck in the future, and it still stays to me to this day.
Well, I'd like to thank you for calling in and sharing your memories.
Oh, it was a pleasure, and keep up the great work, guys. You guys have the best wrestling thing out there on the internet.
Thank you very much.
That was nice, Joe.
Okay, bye-bye.
Hey, Smith Hart, this is Missionary from Wrestling Soup. I actually had a question for you. Being the oldest son of the Hart family, you must have seen everybody grow up, and you were probably a big role model, for your brothers and stuff like that. Can you probably tell us some of the advice or some advice that you gave Owen back when he was a kid?
Yeah, Owen was a pretty damn good kid, and he had lots of advice from brothers closer in age to him than I, but I basically told him that, my advice in general was go after what you want with a vengeance, don't let anything deter you from your dreams.
No.
Owen was such a good little guy. Everybody loved him. He was like our mascot. We used to almost dress him up and stuff. We'd dress him up like a little punk, and get him a black leather jacket and grease his hair down and stuff and send him to school like us, like some, not that we were all punks or anything, but Owen, when you're in high school, you dress a certain way, and when you're in, grade school, you dress a certain way. Owen was dressing like high school kids, so we get him custom-made leather jackets and stuff that would fit his small, physique in those days. And he was a tough kid, Owen. He always scarred up from doing something. He was always climbing a tree or getting stranded on a roof or something, and neighbor kid, little Malcolm Todd, was had a vicious streak in him, possibly, but I remember he whacked going across the head with a board or something, gave one a kind of a scar on his nose, and Owen always had, his fingernails worn down to nothing, and his, scrapes and bruises and black eye and stuff from little scraps and stuff, and he wasn't a troublemaker at all, but he was like Dean, maybe the next most in the family like Dean. He didn't take any crap from anybody, but he didn't deserve any. I mean, that was the difference between those two. They didn't really ask for trouble, but somebody wanted to serve it, they'd dish it right back. So
I was kind of curious. Do you remember the moment or what it was, or specifically, obviously, the family is a major part of it, but do you remember what it was that Owen finally decided to get into the wrestling business?
Well, he saw Bruce doing very well. Bruce was one of the most popular wrestlers in Calgary ever, and he and Owen were kind of a similar size, and Bret had gone off to the WWF at the time, and we were, still struggling with wrestling, running it, not exactly competing with the WWE, but, with all their power production and all that, our small time production wasn't really a match. And we had developed some talent, and we were developing new talent at the same time. But there's no comparison to the WWE. But Owen and Bruce, sort of filled the gap there, maybe teaming up where it was Bruce and Bret, or now Bruce and Owen. And Keith was still wrestling, but he had other interests as well. But Owen filled the gap there. He was a good amateur wrestler, and he was serious weight trainer, and he actually wanted to be a firefighter like his brothers Keith and his brother-in-law BJ. But so he could stay home. It wasn't that he loved putting out fires. He really wanted to be a homebody and take care of his wife, and his kids were coming then, and he actually wasn't even married then, I suppose. But I mean, Owen he planned. He was a smart person. Like, he got his teaching degree, and he probably never used it because he was such a good wrestler. He just immediately went from graduating university to wrestling. And so he was the top star in our circuit at the time, and that's a great tribute to Owen.
Now we actually do have on the line the Birdman, Coco Beware. He has a couple of stories. He's coming on live, so he is on with us right now. Coco, how are you doing?
Hey, brother, I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. We actually have Smith Hart on the line with us right now. I do have a couple of questions for you. You got to team with Owen for a while, and, what are some good memories you'd like to share with our listeners about Owen?
Well, first of all, I want to say hello to Smith. And then, he still, he always will be one of the Hart brothers in my life, and along with the Hart family. And so I just want to give my regards out to the Hart family, what happened to Owen, and like I said, don't nobody know the answer, the reason why, but God, and hopefully that he'll have an answer for us one day. But it's so good to be back on the radio one more time, and some things that Owen and I have shared together. Man, I'm telling you, it was a great honor to be a part of Owen Hart. I mean, even to be a part of the Hart Foundation. That's why. When you talk about Owen Hart, you talk about Stu Hart, the backbone of the family, of the Hart Foundation family.
That's great,
okay,
Coco. I'd like to say hello to you, too. You and Owen were probably the best singers that they ever had in all of the WWF. I thought you had a great voice, and Owen actually had a very good voice. He could really carry a tune, and he praised you a lot. He had nothing but good to say about Coco Beware, and we remember that, the Hart family, the Hart brothers.
Oh, yeah. And I still don't know the reason why they stopped Owen and I from going all the way to the top in the WWE, because, man, we was red hot.
You were red hot.
Man, you're talking about, yes, we was red hot, and I don't know why they pulled the plug. For some reason, they pulled the plug. I guess it was getting over too good. I don't know. I still don't know the day,
I said you would hate to think that they pulled the plug because you're getting over too much. I mean, that's bad business. But I see the plug pulled on lots of situations and lots of people all too often. It makes no sense to me at all. I think they want the show to be bigger than life, but not any one individual. Because then you might be another Hulk Hogan where you hold them up or something. I don't know, but I guess they have their reasons. But you guys were gentlemen and would never held them up or put them on the spot. You just were getting over like hell, and I can see that. And your music was great. And those videos, those DVDs and stuff they're making, that was all good merchandising.
Right. We was on our way to the mountaintop, and brother, and I just, like I said, even I tell you what, this is how much I get, how much I really know, how much we was on fire. And, your dad, your father, Stu, I call him my father too, because, he treated me like I was one of the boys there.
That's right.
Which I was. But, but he tell it like it is, what I'm saying. If he said, Coco, you was pitiful. You and Owen Hart are pitiful. Or this guy's pitiful. Or y'all not going nowhere. He just told it like it was, and brother, and that was being the real true person come out of him. And that's what's wrong today. a lot of the wrestling business is they're not being truthful to each other. I mean, here it is. They just tell you what they want you to hear instead of telling you the truth. Say, hey, if you're messing up, tell somebody you're messing up. You know, I mean, but Stu Hart was the one that came to him and said, hey, you and my son, or y'all are my two sons, y'all are red hot.
Coco, you're my brother. I regard you as a brother. You know, when my father died, Stu Hart, he had a picture of Luther Lindsay, my mother, and my sister Ellie Neidhart, in his wallet. That was all he had. No pictures of any of the boys or anybody else, but he had a picture of Luther Lindsay. Luther was about your size, and my dad loved Luther for his genuine.
Yeah, that's what he told me. I remind him of him.
Yeah, they feared Luther in Japan. You know, I went to Japan, and all these wrestlers, sumo wrestlers, and big giant wrestlers, you know, big stars of any circuit there in Tokyo, all had heard about Luther or actually wrestled him and feared him. He was deadly, but he was a nice guy. He didn't throw his weight around.
Okay, yeah, I was just going to ask you, you know, this is something we've asked a lot of the other guys, and we just have a couple more questions for you. And my next question is, you know, Owen was like the master of pranks. Did you ever see a rib, or did he ever pull a rib on you that really stands out?
Yeah, well, you know what, you just took the words out of my mouth, because I was just going to flow right on into all of that, and I appreciate that. Yes, you know, Owen, he was the type of guy that he loved to play ribs and stuff, along with those British Bulldogs. I mean, you know, and like I said, Owen never did rib me too much, but he just ribbed a lot of guys that I mean, just probably hit their pants and wrestling boots. That you see one of the guys, can't remember now. One of the guys' wrestling boots was hanging up on the ceiling where he's getting ready to. He's looking for his boots all the whole time. Of course, we got there at 12 o'clock that evening, and then the show started around about 6 or 7. Well, he couldn't find his boots when it was time to get dressed. He walked all around the Coliseum trying to find his boots and stuff, and he could never find them. Well, finally, about an hour later, his boots ended up by his bag in the dressing room. And man, he's a dirty, or he's a man, and he was just going all over. All right, I want to know who did that. I want to know who ribbed the hell out of me. I want to know that. And man, we were just dying and laughing. Everybody was on the floor. I mean, that's just some of the clean ribs and stuff. I mean, we had some guys in the dressing room who did a lot of dirty ribs, and I don't want to say it on the air.
If Owen could have his fans remember him for one thing, personally, what does Coco Beware feel that Owen would want his fans to remember him for?
You know, I want him. He would want his fans to remember him the way he was, the way his family was, and stuff like that, and all the things he honored, that he'd been through, and his family, his own personal family, and you know. It's a lot of things that Owen wanted, you know, still want the fans to remember. Just remember him as Owen Hart. Yes, the Blue Blazer, man, you know, and I would, like I said, he would never be forgotten in my life, I mean, until the day I die, and I still is going to remember him when I'm dead. And, you know, he always, the Hart Foundation will always have a place in my heart. And that's just not because Smith is there. I'm just being real. That's how I feel about the whole Hart Foundation. You know, I don't know. I don't want to start naming all the names because I get them mixed up and stuff. But I'm just saying, you know, Bret and Owen was the only two that I was really, really around and really got close to. But all the rest of them, I knew them, but I didn't know them like I knew Bret and Owen. But it's still, you know. Man, I'm telling you, I would. That's something that he will never be forgotten, and I won't either.
Hey, how's it going, Coco Beware? It's Missionary from Wrestling Soup. You know, working so closely with Owen Hart, you have to have something inspirational that happened between you guys. I mean, you guys leaned on each other. You guys had such a successful tag team. Can you tell us an inspirational moment where you just stood back and looked at Owen and went, wow, that's awesome?
Well, just watching him while I'm standing on the sideline, you know, standing on the apron of the ring and watching his performance, the moves and things. now you guys like the guys in the WWE, the TNA, wrestling all around, they're doing all the high flying and stuff like that. I just look at Owen and I, we're the one really pioneered all this.
Yeah.
And we gave each other compliments, man. You know, man, he said, Coco, man, I go out there and do a move. He said, man, that was fantastic, man. That was great. And I would do the same thing with Owen. Just how we could do things. And that's what I really miss.
Now I have a question. If you could say one thing to Owen, what would it be?
Man, I love you.
Now, one question I have. You wish he was here. Now, one other question I have is, if you were to write a book about Owen Hart, what would the title be?
I would put it, and it's an old song. He did it his way. Like Elvis came out, or Frank Sinatra came out my way. It would be like Owen Hart. He did it his way.
Nice. Thank you very much, Coco Beware. I appreciate it. It really is heartwarming to hear it coming from you, just because you did have such a close camaraderie with Owen, because, I mean, just working in tag teams and being in the limelight together like that, it's really nice to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm just being real, man. And you know what? Tears come on my eyes. Hold on, let me catch my composure.
No problems.
You know, it hurts. It hurts because, you know, he didn't really, he achieved a lot of things in his life. And one of the main achievements in his life was seeing his kids grow. And that's when it hurts.
Now, Smith, do you have any last things you want to say to Coco?
Coco is a great soul, and I know he did love Owen, and we love Coco. I remember my mother remarking about Coco used to pronounce his name Orn, O-R-N, but this Coco's now pronouncing it a little more exactly, maybe for the show, for the occasion. But that was a touching. Some of those questions and answers were very touching, and it's almost an unfair question to ask what you name a book. If somebody asked me that, I wouldn't have hardly been able to come up with a name. But Owen was, you know, the last of the Harts, and I think he might have had more children. Like what's so sad? Like wrestling is wrestling, and that's business. But the love of the family and his love of his family, and vice versa. Those kids missed out on growing up with a superhuman being, you know, a special person. Owen would have been as model a parent as you could have had. And he wasn't all about prim and proper. He was about honesty and natural, being natural. You know, he was a very natural person. He didn't like a lot of synthetic things. He had simple values. Status and things weren't that important to him. He was just as happy driving a van or an old muscle car as a brand new limo or something. You know, he wasn't a status seeker. He just wanted to be a good father and a good husband, a good son, a good brother.
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming on, Coco.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
It's good to talk to you, Smith. Just give my regards to the rest of the family up in Canada, and whenever you talk to them, sure, just let them know, brother, we still love you all, and always will. And God bless you all, and just stay.
Bless your wicked soul too.
Thank you, Coco.
All right, thank you very much. I have got the Godfather on the line. Now, you had the chance to work with Owen Hart on a few occasions. What are your memories of working? I know you worked with him before he was in WWE, in the USWA, and as well as in WWF. What are your memories of working with him?
Probably like everybody else, man. Owen was one of the best workers out there, a lot better worker than I was. He led me through many a matches, man, and Yeah, I was in Germany, and I've been in Japan with him, and well-liked, well-missed, and just a great guy, man. His whole family actually was really good. All of them, including Bret, were always nice to me.
What is one thing that you feel that Owen would want his fans to remember him for?
I couldn't tell you that. I didn't, I could just tell you what I remember about him. He was just a great guy. What he wants his fans to remember, I have no idea.
Now, Owen was a huge ribber back in the day. Do you recall any Owen Hart ribs? Or did he ever pull any of them?
Ribs? Owen ribbed a lot. No, Owen never ribbed me. He never did that. Most of his ribs were funny. Nothing malicious. He was always pretty funny. Like I say, he's just a great guy and well missed.
Does any one rib stick out to you?
No, it doesn't. Not really. Oh, I'm sure you got guys that tell all type of stories. I'm not the kind of guy that kisses and tells, so I don't really like to tell many stories about people. But Owen, he was a ribber. He was funny. He was always in a good mood. He was always willing to help people. He set up matches for me before, and he's just a great guy, man. I spent over in Germany. He had been there before. He showed me the ropes, took me around, showed me how to order, showed me how to get taxis places, and, couldn't have been a better guy.
Is there one thing that you would want Owen to know, like a last thought that you would like to say to Owen or anything that you didn't get to say to him?
I wish you could have had that last match, man. I know it would have been a good one. I just really miss that guy. A lot of people ask me about Owen, and just a great guy, man.
Yeah, I had a question, Godfather. When you had matches with Owen, what was your favorite match that you had with Owen? Any recollections?
Oh, man, that's so long ago. That you're talking so long ago. Not really.
Okay.
I had a lot of matches with Owen, and he was different characters. He was Blue Blazer. He was Owen Hart. He was this one. I was Papa Shango. I was this one, that one. Just good matches, man. Just good times.
Very nice. Hey, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Okay, guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
We do have other callers on the line, so I'm going to go ahead and cue in the next one. The next one is 561. You're on the air. You got a memory you want to share?
I've seen Owen Hart perform the Blue Blazer, and they did that angle with Dan Severin and whatnot, and that was pretty interesting, and that was pretty funny. But as far as I wanted to know about Austin, and he accidentally broke Owen's neck. I know it's not a good thing, but did they ever reconcile the differences before he died?
Smith, do you want to answer that?
I couldn't actually hear the question that well. What was it again?
Yeah, he asked if Austin and Owen reconciled their differences after or before Owen passed.
I believe they did. I wouldn't bet my life on it, but
because Bret had said they didn't. That's why I'm just asking.
Yeah, they did. I'm sure they did. Steve Austin was a good professional and a friend of the family and a great person as well as a great performer. And
I didn't know if they really did or not, but.
No, they sometimes take liberties with each other at the expense of the office, you might say, and it's between them, and there's some injury issues that maybe suited the occasion to take a hiatus and blame the opponent for it and stuff. But I think Steve Austin's a great guy, and no one loved him, and they probably had a lot of mutual respect for each other.
So call from 718. You're on.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Frankie from New York.
Doing good. You got an Owen Hart memory you'd like to share?
Just watching him on TV, and two of the memories I have the most is when he won the Slammy Awards and when he became the King of Hearts. I don't have any personal memory because I never had a chance to actually meet Owen. I always wanted to because I am a big Hart family fan. I've been watching WWE since I was 5 years old, and I've been a big fan of the Harts, from Bret Hart to Owen Hart to the Bulldogs to the Hart Dynasty as we speak today. And I gotta say, the first time I ever shed a tear for a wrestler was for Owen Hart, and I was actually watching the pay-per-view of the day of the tragedy. And it really brings a lot of sadness to my soul. I always wished I could have had a chance to actually shake Owen's hand and actually meet him like I did with the rest of the Hart family members.
I'd like to thank you for sharing your memories. Smith, anything you want to say?
I thank you too, sir.
I would just like to give I'd just like to tell Smith Hart that I'm a big Hart family fan, and I love you guys. I'll be watching the pay-per-view today when the Hart Dynasty would defend their tag titles. And I would like to give a shout-out to Natalia Neihart, which this Thursday would be her birthday. So I would just like to say happy birthday to Natalia.
I have to confess, I didn't even know it was her birthday, but I was about to, wish them good luck over the air in this tag match. It's very important, and I do wish them luck. And the caller is very astute about his knowledge of the Hearts.
I had a question, now, Smith Hart. The big match where it was Owen Hart versus Bret Hart. What was the feeling for the rest of the family during that match?
Owen and Bret?
Yes.
Well, we just knew that it would be as good a match as you could almost imagine. You couldn't just between them alone. They had no help from the office or the writers or from any other source. They could have, on their own, torn the house down. For weeks after week. It could have been a succession of great matches. We just, we were all, fortunate to be pawns on the table, or not even pawns, less than pawns, but anytime that Bret was in a WrestleMania or one of the big pay-per-views, or Owen or both of them, and the family was involved in any way, it meant, the fun of being backstage and meeting celebrities and being on TV and your kids' friends at school, the buzz of the classroom would be about seeing Uncle Smith on TV or Uncle Bret or Uncle Owen. We're always, we almost couldn't get enough of that stuff because we were pretty much out of wrestling in Calgary. My dad had retired, and that was, a funny story. My mother's father was an Olympic track star, and her 4 sisters, and she hardly ever discussed wrestling until Bret made it into the WWE. And then, my mother was almost ashamed of the nature of not so much wrestling, but professional wrestling compared to Olympic. My grandfather broke the world record in 1912 for the mile.
Oh, wow.
And there's no comparison, say, to commercial wrestling and Olympic track. But anyway, when Bret and later Owen and the Bulldogs and all that were in the WWE, Big Shots, rubbing shoulders with Cyndi Lauper and Aretha Franklin and those type of guys, Liberace and Little Richard and all that, and even Andre the Giant, people like that. My nieces and nephews all across the states, my mother's 4 sisters had almost as many kids as she did. They were celebrities that get to take home the special souvenir chairs and meet, celebrities and wrestlers and giants and be part of it. And it's pretty exciting when you see some of those huge crowds they had and the big excitement, the big fanfare. So our family was, we're all kind of hams for it in a sense, like respectable hams. I'm not trying to shove myself down anybody's throat, really, but when it's in your blood and you've had a lot of experience doing, anything like wrestling in front of a lot of people, whether it's in Calgary or Los Angeles or New York, it's fun to still be part of it, especially on such a high level as the WWE.
Now, Smith, we actually have on the line with us Sean Morley, formerly Val Venus. We're going to get some memories from him. So, Sean, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Yourself?
Doing good. Now, you got the chance to work with Owen and be on the road with him. Is there any fond memories that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh, yeah, actually, Owen was obviously classic for non-stop 24/7 ribbing. He's just, he always kept you on your toes, He was a great guy to have in the locker room. He kept the morale high all the time. You could always expect something quite funny out of Owen Hart all the time. I do remember one time specifically when we had an early morning flight out of a small town. I can't remember the name of the town, but we were flying into St. Louis. And so we got into St. Louis, I guess, around 8 a.m., and everybody was real tired. So the idea was to head across the street to the Marriott, right across the street from the St. Louis International Airport there. Check in, catch a quick nap, and then head off and train, and then go to the arena later that night. So when we all got over to the Marriott, all the boys were lined up and they were checking in. And of course, there's a ton of fans there, and they're all asking to, have their pictures signed and their toys signed and things like that. So we're waiting in line and we're signing these things. And this guy walks up to me as I'm signing some kids' memorabilia and stuff, and he's got a stack of Val Venus pictures. I mean, he must have had like 500 of them. And he says, "Hey man, can you sign these for me?" And I said, "No, I'll sign one of those for you. I'm not going to sit there and sign all those pictures." And I continued signing all the kids' stuff, and the guy walked away. So eventually I checked in, and I went up to my room and laid down in bed, and I was just dozing off, and the phone rings. And I pick up the phone, and I go, "Hello." And they go, "Hey, man, you promised me you'd come down here and sign these pictures. You should really come down here and sign these pictures." And I said, "Who the hell is this?" "I'm the guy that asked you to sign these pictures." And so immediately I remembered the guy, and I was like, "Dude, listen, I don't appreciate people calling my room, especially when I'm trying to sleep. I didn't promise you jack. Now take a hike and don't call back here." So I hung up. Well, he called right back. And I picked up the phone again, and the first thing he says to me is, "Hey, man, I'm a big man. You won't get by me." And, of course, that just set me off. So I threw my clothes back on, and I didn't even wait for the elevator. I was on the third floor, so I just ran as fast as I could down the stairs. When I ran to the lobby of the hotel, it was completely empty. All the fans left. All the boys were already checked in. But Owen and Jeff Jarrett were sitting on a bar stool right near the bar area. The bar was closed because it was early in the morning, but they're sitting on the stool. And I'm looking around for this guy with the long hair in the pictures. And I turned to Jeff and I turned to Owen and I say, "Hey, did you guys see a tall guy with scraggly hair with a bunch of pictures down here?" And Owen says, "Well, I saw a guy with long hair just run out the front door a minute ago." So I went running out the front door of the hotel looking for this guy. Couldn't find him, so I go back upstairs and I crash out. 6 months later, we're on Off the Record in Toronto with Michael Landsberg. Mm-hmm. And that's when Edge turns to me and he says, "Hey, man, you remember that time in St. Louis you wanted to kick the crap out of that guy that wanted you to sign those pictures?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "That was Owen." Owen had called my room and got me all wired up. And I guess he was standing behind me while I was waiting in line, and he heard the guy ask me to sign all those pictures. And he heard me say no. And so he decided that as soon as I was about to fall asleep, he was going to call me up and pretend to be the guy. And so, yeah, he got me all wired up. And, of course, I didn't find out for another 6 months after.
That's funny. Now, if there's one thing that Owen would want his fans to remember him for, what would that be?
I think Owen was just always about having a great time, both in the ring and outside the ring. I mean, he was a family man. He always talked about his family a lot. And he was always having fun. Everything was just fun to him, you know. He was just always, nothing ever really brought him down. He could always find something fun in any situation, even in tough situations.
Hey, Sean Morley, this is Missionary from Wrestling Soup. How are you doing today, sir?
Good.
You know, it's no secret that he was an inspiration to a lot of guys, and like you said, he was a master ribber, but I was kind of curious, what kind of inspiration did Owen Hart leave on you?
Oh, the fact that he was so confident in his abilities that he could actually go out there and just work a fun match without having to stress over, oh, what's the next spot? Oh, what should we do here? What should we do there? He just made it fun. He made it easy, you know, and I think that was something that kind of wore off on me, and it allowed me to have a lot more fun in the ring as well. Just when I realized that it's not all about A, B, C inside the ring, and that's really, you know, I never really planned out matches from A to B anyway. I mean, I have a finish, and that was it, and I generally call everything else out there. But I was always trying to play off the fans, like, you know, are the fans buying this? Okay, let's change it. Do you know what I mean? I do everything on the fly. But when I got to know Owen and started working with Owen, I got to realize that you can not only play out the fans, but you can relax and have fun with it as well, and it just makes it so much better. You know, so he was just so confident in his abilities that you know, he could easily play off the fans and still have fun. You know, I remember he would shoot guys off the ropes, and he'd just mumble to you. He'd go, blah, 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 blah. And as you're running, you're going, what? And of course, he'd just say, "Just do it." And of course, you never know what he was going to do when you come off the rope, But he always took care of you. He never. It was just always fun to work with. He made you relax in the ring. He made you understand that being in that ring and performing was actually a lot of fun.
If you could say one thing to Owen today, what would you say?
I would say, Owen, I love you, man. I miss you. And thanks for all the great times. And thanks for teaching me that being in the ring doesn't have to be as stressful as it's made out to be.
One other question I want to ask you is, if you had to write a book about Owen, what would the title be?
Oh, gosh. That's a tough one. Probably Owen's Playground, the squared circle.
Perfect.
Isn't it?
That's very good.
That's perfect.
It really was his
title.
playground. I mean, he just had so much fun out there.
Now, Smith, is there anything you'd like to say to Sean Morley before we go ahead and wrap it up?
Hello, Sean. What a perfect, apropos title, Owen's Playground. That was his playground. He was as playful as an otter, and that was part of his charm, wasn't it?
Absolutely, it was. It really was like he was like a kid in a candy store when he was in the ring.
I'm going to bring a couple of young bisexuals down to your clinic on the 19th and 26th in Peterborough, and I'll enjoy the boot camp out there with you, Sean. That'll be a surprise.
Perfect. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'll enjoy seeing you. We'll have dinner after.
Heck yeah. Absolutely. That sounds great.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us and sharing stories.
Well, thank you for having us, man. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you very much, Sean.
One Wrestling's own. Bill, you've got a couple of stories you want to share about Owen.
Thank you, first of all, for including me on the program here. Owen was a very close friend, and I don't have any. He was a great ribber. He liked to pull a lot of practical jokes on a lot of people. But the part of Owen Hart's life that I remember most was something that he and I shared, and it was and people are going to go, "Oh my God, a guy from New York, Philadelphia listens to this." I'm a huge country fan, huge country music fan. I absolutely love it. And I had gone to a concert by a country artist by the name of Colin Ray. And I found out when I was talking to Colin Ray that his son is a wrestling fan, and their favorite wrestler, Colin and his son Jake, is Owen Hart. And I told them I know Owen, and they had both met Owen. Anytime they were in a town where Owen was, they always went to see him. So when I mentioned this to Owen Hart, that I had just seen Colin Ray, it was like amazing, because Owen had no idea I liked that genre of music. And one of Colin Ray's greatest songs was called "One Boy, One Girl." And every time Owen and I would see each other, after we got to know that we both knew Colin Ray, we would both burst into song. He could be in the middle of a meeting with another wrestler, and he'd turn around, "One boy, one girl, two hearts beating wildly," and then I'd take the second chorus. And we would do that every time we saw each other.
Oh, wow. So you saw him often then?
I saw him every few months whenever I was in a town where the WWF was, that he was working at. I saw him quite a bit, and we always talked country music. Rarely talked wrestling, but we always talk country music.
And now, one thing I've been asking everyone who has joined us tonight is, if you could say one thing for Owen that he would want his fans to remember him for, what would that be?
Wow. Sense of humor. To me, one of the most important qualities of any human being is a sense of humor, and he had a great sense of humor. Everybody liked Owen Hart. You won't hear one person say anything bad about Owen Hart.
Okay, Missionary, do you got anything you want to ask?
No. Thank you very much, Bill Apter. Wonderful story to hear about the country music. I didn't even know that Owen Hart loved country music. That's pretty nice to hear.
Oh, he was a huge fan, especially. And are we still on the air? Hopefully,
yeah,
we are. Okay, well, actually, Colin Ray sang at Owen Hart's funeral.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it became the country music story came full circle because Colin Ray was at the funeral and was asked to sing.
Wow.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing your story about Owen, and I feel that you've added a lot to this program, so I want to thank you again.
Well, thank you very much, and just want to send a hello out to all the people who were Owen Hart fans, and always keep Owen Hart in your memory because he was a terrific person, and he's someone you should always remember with a fond smile on your face.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill After.
All right. And as I always say, this is Bill After, and I'll see you at the matches.
You can go online to find that at www.owenhart.org. And I'm sure, JT, that you will post that on your website as well. I have several things to say about Owen. First off, Owen was the entire reason that I even got into the professional wrestling industry. He was not only a great wrestler, but as everyone has also said, he was a very, very nice man. Probably the nicest man that you'll ever meet in the wrestling business, I guarantee it. Owen Hart inspired me so much that I have a son named Owen after Owen Hart. He is that much of an inspiration to me. He is, as I said, the reason I got into the wrestling business. He is the greatest guy that I've ever met, that I've ever known. I only got to meet him once. It was a very quick, brief thing. I didn't really get a chance to talk to him as much as I would have loved to. If I could see Owen today, the one thing that I would tell Owen is how much he meant to me, because he did. His work meant tremendous amount of respect to me. I think that he is the greatest wrestler of all time to never win a world championship. I've said that many a times, and I will stand by that to this day. Smith, is there anything you would like to say to Joe?
Oh, I appreciate Joe's words very much, and there's no kinder tribute, more significant tribute than to name your son after someone that was almost heroic to you, such as Owen was to him, and that's very touching to me, and I'm glad he brought up the Owen Hart Foundation. It's something that should have been brought up before the show's out, at least, because that's a very legitimate thing, and Owen had a passion for helping people, and his wife Martha shared that with him, and that's a big thing. She gave $1 million to kick that off.
Oh wow! See, I did not know that. Now,
big deal.
All right, and we are here on the Owen Hart Tribute Radio Show, and without further ado, I have the toughest man to ever wear a dress, Vito, on the line. Vito, you got to work with Owen. What are some memories of working matches with him and being on the road with him?
Well, I'll tell you what, he is probably one of the most loving family men you ever want to meet. The guy had a great sense of humor, and he always liked to play practical jokes on a lot of guys. Bret, Jim Neidhart, famous for having road follies, as we call it, and always a pleasure to be around. One of the nicest guys in the business, and probably one of those hardest working guys, and he's probably one of the breakthrough guys. Having a brother like Bret Hart, coming from Stu Hart, residence, and then, breaking in after WWE, especially being in Japan and being the Blue Blazer and doing a whole bunch of stuff like that, and finally coming out and being himself. Tough shoes to fill, and then when they finally gave him his chance to shine, he finally did, and he, became a very good heel, and kind of opposite of his personality, but he did a great job of what he did. I remember a time when my time when I wrestled in the WWF, and I was a rookie back in 1991, 92, and I was doing the TVs at the Manhattan Center, and he gave me a chance to wrestle against Owen Hart and Coco B. We're in a tag team match. My tag team partner was Iron Mike Sharp. So going back a few years, and it was pretty cool. Everybody back then, everybody knew I was a hard-working guy, and, I was a young kid just, doing a great job on TVs and doing 7-minute matches live. And, I did a few high spots, took the big finish from them. It was always good. It was safe, nothing crazy. And, always a smile, always a thank you. And what more can you ask for?
We've heard already that Owen used to take care of the young guys. Did you feel that way?
Oh, of course. I mean, but you know what? Owen was just didn't used to take care of the young guys. I mean, he took care of everybody. He was everybody's buddy. There wasn't a time when if you didn't need something or he didn't, want something and he had to go do something that he wouldn't extend himself to help a guy out. So, I mean, as far as just being, one of the guys, he helped all the guys. So it didn't matter who you were on the face of the earth, he was just that type of person.
Now, you touched on it a little bit. You said Owen was a master ribber. Did you ever witness any ribs, or did he ever rib you?
He never ribbed me, but I did witness a few. They were pretty cool. I think the one that probably stands out is the gravy train. That's when you take a gentleman's bag, fill it with dog food, then fill it with water, shake it up, then you got the gravy train. So when the guy's going to get his gimmick and all his stuff out of his bag, what does he got? Dog food all over his stuff. And to get that stink out of it is pretty bad. So when the guy's got to go out and work that night and, he's got to wash his gear out and he's smelling like puppy chow, best thing of all. So I have to say that would probably be the one thing one rib I remember.
Now, if there's one thing that you feel that Owen would want his fans to remember him for, what would that be?
Probably his smile, his personality, just the way he cared about the business, giving 110% all the time. But if he had to be remembered for anything, it would be his good nature as a human being and being that kind of special person that brought happiness to everybody around. And that's what Owen Hart probably want to be remembered for, more than wrestling, because in life, wrestling isn't everything, as we all know. Being that you weren't there at the time, it just it sends shockwaves through your body to know that something like that could happen, at a show, let alone, having that said. I mean, the day Eddie Guerrero passed away, and it was me and Nunzio getting ready to go to the gym, and we were in the gym, we're waiting for Benoit, waiting for Eddie, waiting for Chavo. We all used to work out together every morning, and they didn't show up, and we're like, okay, what happened to the guys? We're the only ones here. And we get to the building and, find out Eddie had passed away. It's not a preparation, but it's definitely an eye-opener, and definitely something that definitely shakes up your world and shakes your body. I mean, there's no way it's a very traumatic experience, and if anybody who's lost anybody in your family, I mean, you know what kind of dramatic experience it is, and that just doesn't go for wrestling. Wrestling is like, that's your family for when you're on the road, and those are the people you're closest to, when you're away from home. But, it doesn't replace, when you are home and you lose somebody like your mother, your father, or your wife, your kids, you lose somebody like that. I mean, it's still the same devastating thing. I mean, for Bret Hart, I know Bret a long time. He lost his brother. To him, it's tough. It was tough. It's just tough the way around. So, you guys doing the tribute show, I think it's pretty nice. And, always take the positive out of everything, and even though he's not here, his memory's still living strong. And, everybody who pays tribute to him, it's very cool. And it's appreciated throughout wrestling.
Was there anything inspirational that you witnessed from Owen to you?
I guess being that I got to work with Bret, and then I got to be friends with Owen, and both of them used to take me under their wing and talk to me all the time, and they were friends with me, and they always used to they were always cool with me. I can't say anything more, really. I mean, when they're, if the business can go back to the way it used to be, and, they get to see a bunch of great guys, and people just don't judge a book by a cover, open it up and see what the people on inside are about.
Well, I'd like to thank you for doing this and sharing your memories of Owen.
Well, you're very welcome. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. And
thank you, Big Vito.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
Bye, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Another great story. Now, we do have a caller on the line. I'm going to go ahead and welcome them onto the air. Jason, you were on.
Hey, what's going on, guys? First, I'd like to thank Missionary and JT for giving us this forum to come on here with Smith, one of Owen's fellow brothers, and, pay our tribute to him. It really means a lot to us as fans. My biggest story, I don't really have an Owen memory per se, but I would just like to talk about what his death did to me as a wrestling fan. And I could always remember being a rabid wrestling fan and always having my guys I cheered for and guys I hated. Ever since 1983, I remember watching wrestling. I've always been a rabid fan. I knew what I was watching was choreographed and everything, but Owen's death, watching a pay-per-view that night, and consequently the following night on the tribute show, when they paid tribute to Owen, and the curtain was really raised the first time for us wrestling fans to see these performers for really who they are and what they are, and for every single one of them to come out there with the emotions they showed and paying tribute to Owen and talk about Owen the way they did. It moved me greater than anything that's ever happened to me in my life. It changed my perception on the wrestling business. Ever since then, I love and respect every single one of these guys. Owen also taught me what it means to be a good father. And that time is short, and never take time for granted. It's just really hard. Thinking back to all the good things that he did for his kids, and how they just bought their first house, and he never really got to settle into it. It's heartbreaking. And for him to die the way that he did, unnecessarily in a stunt. It wasn't like it was an in-ring accident, a power bomb gone wrong or a pile driver gone wrong or something. It was just something that shouldn't have happened. I just feel he died for our entertainment, and I'll always have him in our heart. And Smith, your family is always going to be close to my heart. And
you touch me, Jason. I love you too.
Thank you for calling in, Jason. Is there anything else you'd like to say, Smith, before we go ahead and kick into a couple more of the interviews?
Well, I'm touched by all these wrestlers and fans calling in. Jason, was obviously moved and shaken by his recollections of Owen, and that reminds me of Mark Henry was sobbing like a baby at the tribute the following day, and no doubt he's thinking of that, Jason, when he was mentioning that. And I was touched by all the guys. There's a raw emotions of all these people who loved Owen as a co-worker and a fellow wrestler and a fellow human. They weren't family, but they were deeply saddened. And I know all the hierarchy of the WWE was as well. I know Owen took pride in doing a lot of charity work for Linda McMahon, and he would never balk at signing autographs, whether it was one kid on a street in Calgary or sitting all day at a venue, a mall or something for a charitable thing. He was devoted to the business, devoted to his family, devoted to his fellow wrestlers. He was a perfectionist and very serious entertainer. He could have been a movie star, I think. He had great credibility as an actor, and he was a great athlete.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here on the Owen Hart Tribute Radio Show, and at this time I have ECW Original Pitbull #1, Gary Wolf. Gary, I know you got to work with Owen in Japan as well as other places. What was your experience working with Owen?
Well, Owen was actually a pretty good friend of mine. I broke into business. Me and my partner were friends with a lot of guys that came out of the dungeon, and Benoit being one of them, Owen being another one, Jericho being another one. I think Lance was another one. So what happened was, I didn't really know Owen at first until Tokyo Joe, who was his agent, became my agent. and he flew in from Canada and into Philadelphia and gave us a contract for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that's when the first time I went to Japan was with Owen, and it was pretty good. I mean, it was thank God for Owen, because if Owen wasn't there, I didn't know what I was going to do, because it was the first time that we were ever in Tokyo, and being in Tokyo for the first time and then having, they didn't know what to do as far as ordering food or other things, So Owen, more or less showed us, how to order food and, do stuff like that. And I also remembered him, he's always put his family first. I mean, no matter what it was, I don't care if he had 2 nickels in his pocket, he made sure money went home to his family. And then he would, and sometimes he wouldn't even eat out with us. He would have his, little grill with him, and he would set it up in his room, and he would cook his own food just to save money, just so he could send money to his family. And that's the kind of person Owen was. I mean, he just was. I mean, I'm not saying he was cheap. He was just very good with his money. Like, he didn't want to waste his money because he knew he had kids, and he figured, once, I mean, I know he passed earlier than he should have, way should have, but, he wanted to make sure his family had money, and besides that, I mean, I met him a couple times before I went to Japan, because we would work indies. Like, once in a while, I'd see him on the indie circuit, and I'll be like, wow, man, who's this guy? I mean, this guy is just the flips and the wrestling ability that he had and the style that he had as far as moves. I mean, every time I watched him, he would pull out a new move out of his hat. And, and like I said, plus me and my partner, we were both, we were kind of homesick, being in Japan. And, he tried to help us through that. And, he made it, like I said, he was a very, very good guy. And, I mean, what happened to him shouldn't have happened to him. I'm still sick to this day that it happened to him. And, I read his wife's book, which I thought was phenomenal. And, he's just a down-to-earth good guy. I mean, if you know him, if you ever had a chance to meet Owen Hart, as far as him being so funny, too, I mean, he would, crack jokes all the time and just make it, even if you're miserable on a bus for 8 hours, I mean, this guy would turn around and make you laugh. I mean, and other people would be like, they're miserable, and next thing you know, you're cracking up laughing and crying practically because he was so funny, But that's the kind of humor, and, that's the way he was. And, I'll never forget him for the rest of my life. And I owe him a lot because, like I said, he showed me a lot. He helped me a lot. And his family, who trained all the wrestlers that I wrestled in the beginning of my career, like the British Bulldogs and guys like that, I mean, they helped my career, and I really appreciate them.
Now, Owen was a master of pranks. Did he ever get you?
One time he got me. It was just a silly little thing because really he didn't know how to test us because we were kind of new in the business. So I remember one time I was running late for a show, and I was getting dressed, and my boots were in the same position, sitting there, just staying there, and I didn't think anything of it. I mean, nobody would, and next thing you know, I put my feet in my boots, I started lacing them up, and I go to walk, and my boots were super glued to the floor, so I couldn't move. And it took I don't know, they're calling my name, they're screaming my name, their music's playing, you got to get out in the ring. And I'm telling them, I can't. My boots are stuck. So I ended up having to take my boots off and wrestle without boots that night.
One of the questions I actually had was, especially since, Owen was, responsible for helping show you the ropes and stuff like that, what are some of the inspirational lessons that he taught you?
Well, number one is try to save as much money as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So, I took that with me when I went to Australia. I used to make, who knows, maybe $1,100 a week at that time, and I would send home $900. I would only keep $200 to my name.
Oh, wow.
So, we had a lot of fans that took care of us and fed us and stuff, so it wasn't that bad, but I just wanted to make sure my bills and my situation at home were taken care of. And that's one thing he did show me. He's like, you got to be responsible. I mean, especially if you have a family, I mean, being single on the road wrestling, that's a different story. You have fun, have a blast. But if you got a family and kids, they have to come first, and then you have to come second. That's how he more or less thought. That's what I got the impression of.
Thank you very much.
Now, I just have one more question, Gary, and that's if Owen could have his fans remember him for one thing, what do you feel that one thing would be?
Number one, being a number one family man, a great husband. Number two, he was a technical genius wrestler. I mean, they say, Bret Hart, best there is, best there was, best there ever is, whatever it is that they say. I mean, that is true. But for him to be able to get that way, he had to work out with Owen all the time, and he had to work out with Davey Boy and Dynamite all the time. So, I mean, it's not just one individual that becomes great. It takes a bunch of guys to make one individual great. That's how I look at it.
Well, Gary, I'd like to thank you for taking your time to share some stories about Owen.
I appreciate it. And like I said, the family, I respect the family so much. I mean, and like Mike Lozansky, the Tiger, he came out of the dungeon, and he was a good friend of mine, and God bless his soul, he passed away like my partner. And but there, I'm sure, all the guys are up there right now and have been sitting back, chilling, probably having a big laugh over this. And, like I always say, they always have the best seats in the house, man, and they do.
If you could say one last thing to Owen, what would it have been?
Thank you. Seriously, thank you very much. I mean, for showing me, the easy way to work, a hard way to work, but, he was easy. I mean, all I could say is thank you to him. I don't know what, and I miss him. That's all I could say.
Thank you very much for doing this.
I appreciate it.
All right, and we are here on the Owen Hart Tribute Radio Show, and I have on the line with us Clarence Mason. Clarence, you got the chance to work with Owen on various occasions, including a feud. What are your memories of working with him?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you all getting in contact with me. It's a pleasure to be on the show to help celebrate or commemorate the life of a very, very good man, and just to remember, go back down memory lane about somebody as great as Owen was. Owen was an absolute phenomenal talent in and out of the ring, and was an absolute joy and pleasure to work with him.
Now, Owen was a major ribber. Did you ever get ribbed by him, or did you ever witness any ribs? If so, would you care to share?
Everybody got ribbed by Owen. Whether he was in the locker room and he let out a major gasser, and we just told her, man, if you lit a flame, man, the methane would probably blow up the entire locker room. He was just that kind of person. That wasn't pleasant, but that was just who he was. If it wasn't that, he had this here way of I remember one particular time he rigged this door, and he had a bucket above the door, and I don't know whether the person was intended who he got, but the victim of the water in the bucket above the door happened to be the Undertaker. That wasn't very, very pleasant. But interesting enough, that wasn't the worst of them all. I think it was one of those Slammies years ago. I knew we were in New York, and Owen was up, and Owen was supposed to announce the winner. And I was supposed to be the winner of this Slammy. Had my speech and everything ready to go. I was on cue, and Owen announced himself as the winner. Well, as he's going back to his table, this guy who's in the who's part of the staff there, who was serving the wrestlers and the guests and people who were there, he pushed this guy intentionally so that everything he had fell over. Well, it fell over on Vader, and Vader in the hotel in the ballroom of the hotel, Vader gives chase, and this is totally unscripted. And Owen really, really rubbed Vader the wrong way, I mean, Owen was really running for his life because I dare say that had Vader gotten a hold of him, Vader would have hurt him because, you know, it was like, you know, he didn't know when to stop ribbing. He took it a little bit too far. I think he later begged, you know, Vader's apology and begged his pardon, but that was just the kind of guy he was. But other than that, you know, that was just harmless, just antics. Owen was just a good guy. He took him for what he was, and he was all right with me. I never had any problems. He would always show me things, teach me things. Sometimes I didn't even solicit the help, but he realized that I was new to the business, and he just wanted to be he just wanted to help me out whichever way he could. So I didn't have any issue with that whatsoever. He was just a great person all around.
Now, if there's one thing that you know Owen wants fans to remember him for, what would that be?
Owen was a leader in the locker room from the standpoint that he never tried to. He was very comfortable in his position with the company, if I can say that. You have some guys that are always concerned about their spot. I don't even know what spot means, but they're always concerned about their spot. But Owen was very, very comfortable in his skin. He knew that, you know, he knew that he was a good talent, and that whether it was there with the WWF at the time or whether it was with another company, he was, he knew he was enough of a talent and enough of had enough of a persona and had a character that he could pretty much go anywhere and he could work. So from that standpoint, like I said, he never alienated anyone. He never backstabbed to my impression of anyone, and that was a pleasure to see because that was at a time when, you know, when Bret and Sean were going through it real bad. I saw a lot of that stuff firsthand, and but Owen was never that kind of. He always rose above that kind of stuff, almost. But that was like his way of just getting past the moment. He would always have a joke or a rib or whatever, but he'd rise above the occasion. He was a good person, man. He really, really was.
Okay, now Missionary, do you got anything you want to ask Clarence Mason?
Yeah, I do. Hey, Clarence, how's it going, sir?
Everything is good. My pleasure.
You know, I was kind of curious. I mean, everybody knows what an inspiration Owen Hart was to the fans, but what kind of inspiration did Owen Hart leave on you?
Wow. Well, I just appreciated the fact that, well, me being new into the business, Owen saw that there were some areas that I needed some work on. And like I said, he would take the time and take me off to the side, and in some of his more serious moments, you know, he would help me out, give me tips. And I was always very, very appreciative from the mentoring standpoint, you know, of what he did. And it wasn't too often, but when it did happen, I was very, very thankful for it. I mean, he was, to me, a very, very wholesome person, very, very serious about his craft. He had a very, very good work ethic. When it came down to execution, he didn't settle for anything. It had to be excellent. It had to be complete, and he didn't want anything less than that. So he left me with the notion that, you know, in this business, anything less than perfection is no good. And if you ever fall short, you know, you're constantly striving to be the very, very best that you can be. And I was very, very thankful for that.
Now, I had one other question. If Clarence Mason were to write a book about Owen Hart, what would the title be?
That's a good one. I would say probably Owen. That's interesting. What would I say? I would probably go somewhere along the line of, in terms of a theme, on the consummate performer. I think that pretty much, as far as people would know what he was all about. There was a very, very private side to him as well, but they wouldn't know anything about that. People just only saw the public side, that's which is from the boob tube on Monday nights. But I would say on the consummate performer, because he was that. He was indeed a great, great talent, a great performer, and he did his job, and he did it very, very well.
Thank you very much, Clarence. It's been a pleasure, sir.
It's all my pleasure. I do thank you all guys for remembering Owen. He deserves that and then some. His death was a loss, first and foremost to his family, and secondly to the wrestling fans all over the world. Somebody like that left way too soon. But we don't have any control of those matters. Life goes on. We do what we can. But it's good to remember a talent like him. It is absolutely good. I appreciate you all doing this.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
All right, and we are here on False Count Radio and the Wrestling Soup as we are doing the Owen Hart Tribute Radio Show. And on the line with me, I have Bill Alfonso. Bill, you got to work with Owen on various occasions. What are your memories of working with him?
Well, I sure did work with Owen when I went to WWF. Let's give you a quick background on me and how I relate to Owen. I started for Eddie Graham in the 80s, and Owen was already, he was born and raised into the business, and we had heard him too hard. Of course, I was not stuck, but we were in territories. I was in the Florida territory, and of course, we would get guys from Calgary, from Owen's dad, Stu Hart, and the Dungeon, and all that. So his name was around since I started. And then I went from Florida to Ted Turner. Then 93, I went to Vince, and Owen was there, and of course Bret was there, and I got to work with him, and it was great. It was like clockwork, when two veteran guys get together. It just naturally flows. He was a great guy. Real hard worker, knew the business in and out, and had been around the world already multiple times. So he was a seasoned veteran and quite a remarkable guy. Real talented in the ring. Of course, you guys know that. You can watch the tape. Some guys got it and some guys don't, but naturally he had it and he could do anything and contributed a lot to the business. His dad, his whole family. And very unfortunate what happened. The whole world stopped and cried and mourned for a while, but life goes on. But quite a remarkable guy. There's a couple of different stories I got about Owen. Remember the Rodney King beating, and then they had the riots, and I guess it was in 93, 94. We had we were doing tours for WWF at the time. That was WWE, of course. And Vince didn't want to cancel, and it was shortly after the riots, and the riots had calmed down, but we were at the L.A. Forum, and so we were flying all of us on the same plane, flying in, and actually the buildings were still smoldering from the mass of riots and fights and what was going on there. So we went to the hotel, checked in, and we went to the building, and I didn't ride with Owen Hart a lot. I rode with him on occasions, and, with the referee was then. So Bret said, "Hey, Fonzie, we're going to the building a little early. You want to go with us?" I said, "Sure." So I jumped in the car with him. It was, 15-minute ride from the LAX Marriott to the Forum. And we rode there, and it was a little tense. The whole city of L.A. was a little tense from what happened. People got killed. Massive destruction in that area. It was just terrible. But the show went on. Vincent canceled. I admire him for that. So we got to the building and did our thing, and towards the end of the night, me and Owen went to talking to a cop, find out what was going on and shit, and the cop just suggested, "Hey, everything's kind of calmed down, but you guys make sure when you leave the building, don't stop anywhere close to the LA Forum, because that's right kind of in the area where all the rioting took place and all that." And he said, "You guys just go back to the hotel and order room service or whatever." So naturally, we don't pay attention, you know what I mean? We jumped right after the matches. We stopped at the first store, and it's an area that was, so close to the disaster. And we get out and bullshit. I said, "Oh," and the cop said, "Don't stop." He said, "Fuck the cop. We're stopping anyway," you know what I mean? But that's what kind of guy he was. He wasn't scared of nothing, but and we did our thing, and there was a bunch of guys there, white, black, Mexican, and everybody put us over because, of course, they knew Bret and Owen, and they didn't know who I was. I was a referee, but some of the people, But we were treated well, and a hell of a guy. He was a ribber, liked to rib, but again, I wasn't really in his clique a lot, although we worked together for years, but we had mutual respect, so we kind of didn't rib each other. But what a talented guy, and I really miss him. And I just saw Bret Hart. I did a show in San Jose, California. It was like a convention thing, and Bret was there. It was for Kurt White, and it was a little convention thing, and Bret was there. And I had brought a picture of me, Owen. It was a European tour that we did, and Hogan and Sebastian Booger and Papa Shango and Yokozuna and the whole crew, the Indians, Fonzie, the whole crew, and Owen was on there, and I gave a picture to Bret. And we talked a little bit about Owen, very little, but it was all good. And he's missed. What a sad thing, But life goes on, and we got good memories. And hell of a guy. Wow.
Now, you kind of touched down on it, and you said that, he didn't really rib you because you guys had a mutual respect. Did you ever see him rib anybody else? If so, can you share a story?
Yeah, there's so many ribs. I just can't remember any particular rib because I kind of stayed out of it, because once you start ribbing, those guys, were crazy in the ribs. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to. I got the trickle down a ripple effect from some of the ribs that wasn't even involved in any, you know what I mean? So I kind of stayed out of it. But I guess flying on an airplane, I guess we were going to Japan or Europe somewhere, and one of the young kids, I forgot who it was, it might have been 1-2-3 Kid or somebody like that caliber, you know what I mean? And the kid had, I don't know if it was a 1-2-3 Kid, but somebody in that caliber. So, it's a 13-hour flight from L.A., so, naturally the guys have a couple of drinks, take a sleeping aid, and try to sleep for a few hours. And Owen shaved the guy's eyebrows off, of course, you know what I mean? And it was kind of funny. We all laughed, and the kid didn't even know it. He woke up and he had no eyebrows, and he didn't know it until he got to the hotel, you know what I mean? It was funny as hell, more funnier than I'm telling it now, you know what I mean? Little ribs like that, nothing big and heartbreaking and destructive, but little ribs like that, or stretching a young kid, you know what I mean, a little bit, or stuff like that. But I can't really remember anything particularly because you guys just called me out of the blue, but I've been expecting the call, but I haven't been thinking much about, what I was going to say, so...
If Owen could have his fans remember him for one thing, what do you feel that would be?
God, I don't know. That's a big question because he can be remembered for so many things. His talent, what a talented guy. He could have been a world champion. I mean, he was that caliber of wrestler. I mean, you remember him for being a great family guy. I mean, he had several kids, a wife. You remember him for that. You can remember him for being, a great Canadian and always supporting his country, and so many things you can remember as a teacher. He knew so much. He was so knowledgeable. He grew up in the dungeon, the famous dungeon that Stu Hart trained so many guys and stretched so many guys. So we can remember for being a teacher and several different things. He was always a people's choice, people's champion, always helped out with the charities, and always, were real good with the kids, and, stopped and did the autographs, which we all did, but he went above and beyond. So there's several dozen different things you can remember him by, but, I hate to say that a lot of people remember him as the big fall and his, and his big accident on pay-per-view, so I don't want anybody to remember him for that, but unfortunately, when I talk to people and his name comes up, that's the first thing he said. Oh my God, the pay-per-view, the accident. Oh my God, nobody talks about all the good times and stuff that he did for other wrestlers and teaching and showing guys the ropes and being a good humanitarian and a family guy and all that. People unfortunately remember the accident more than anything, but hopefully this tribute works out and gets his back where he should be. Well, it's not a negative thing that I'm saying about the accident, but, it's a terrible thing, and unfortunately people remember that a lot, What's going on, Missionary Daddy? What's going on, my brother?
Pretty good, Fonzie. How you doing, sir?
Beautiful. I'm in Tampa Bay, close to the Gulf of Mexico. The Rays are in first place. They're playing good ball. I got a grandson. Life is good. I talk to Van Dam all the time. My house is paid for. I just had a New York strip for lunch. My daughter's beautiful. I got a girlfriend coming over later to hang out in the jacuzzi, and you know what I mean? It's Sunday afternoon. Life is good, brother. We're going to watch the L.A. game tonight. Life is good.
Sounds very nice. Now, I had a question. Over the years, what was the most rewarding thing about knowing Owen?
The most rewarding thing would probably be as a peer. You know what I mean? A good guy to work with. You could count on the guy. Most rewarding thing is about knowing Owen that what a background he had and the famous family he came from, and there's so many things. I was just, blessed to know Owen, and, I'm blessed to know everybody, but unfortunately Owen's not here, but, and I got along with everybody. I don't know why. That's why I lasted. I'm still in the business today. I still do quite a few different things, and TNA's not out of the question. Van Dam's shooting for me, and 10% chance that they might pick me up. But
if Bill Alfonso was to write a book about Owen Hart, what would you call it?
One of the greats.
One
of the greats. And of course, there's hundreds of them, but he was one of them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He was one of them. One of the greats.
Thank you very much, Fonzie. It's been a pleasure, sir.
Oh, not a problem, brother. My pleasure, especially speaking about Owen and having you guys involve me in the tribute. It's very cool of you guys.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Not a problem. Bill Alfonso's pleasure, Daddy. Anytime, brother.
Well, thank you.
All right, we're winding this thing up. And you guys have a great day, and keep up the good work, and life is good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys.
All right, and we are back on the Owen Hart Tribute Show. I personally want to say, and this is JT Evans here, I want to say, Owen was one of the reasons that I got into the business. I remember watching Owen during the Attitude Era in the WWF. I remember watching almost all his matches. I actually was supposed to buy the pay-per-view when he passed away the night that he took the fall. Honestly, I still to this day watch a lot of Owen footage, and Owen is always going to be in my heart as a worker and as a fan. And honestly, I want his legacy to live on.
There is so many things that people have said about Owen over the years, how much they miss him, how much they love him, from in-ring to character to as a person. It's sad to know that somebody that was so special to so many people is just no longer with us today. And I can honestly say that everything that I've seen by Owen, from his matches with Bret and just over the years, even as the Blue Blazer or with Coco Beware, he never failed to impress anyone that watched him. And I think that's probably the greatest piece of his legacy.
I would agree. Now we actually have Viper on this, so Viper, go ahead, man. Is there anything you'd like to share?
Hey, I remember watching Owen Hart in a match with Bret at one point. I forget what the pay-per-view was, but I believe that was, in my opinion, and it always will be, one of the greatest technical matches in WWE history. Both of them obviously trained by Stu Hart, and growing up in the Hart family and the training in the dungeon, it's he's Owen Hart, and honestly, it was watching him that kind of inspired me in a way to get into the business. And I will admit I'm not as technical. I'm not, I'm far from it, but it's made me appreciate watching, his matches has made me appreciate that, the technical aspect and everything. And he was definitely one of the greats, and he was the King of Hearts. There's just no other way to put it. I would have to agree with you. We do have one other caller I want to get on real quick. Viper, stay on with us. This is the Golden Crevet. You're on.
Hey, JT. Thanks for taking my call. I really appreciate that wholeheartedly. Real quick, though, you were talking, earlier about how you were going to order the pay-per-view. I actually did order the pay-per-view, and what a moment when, they did the promo, and then, the whole thing where they zoomed to the crowd, and I was like kind of upset. Like, I was young at the time, and I'm, watching with my dad, and my dad was like, "What's going on?" And we didn't even know what was going on. We thought it was part of the story, part of the show, and I found out the next day. I'm like, my heart really sunk, and I actually met Owen Hart like maybe 2 years prior to that in Northampton, and one of the nicest guys you ever meet, and as a person, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Smith, is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, there's been a lot of very heartfelt tributes to Owen, and I appreciate them all. I hope some of my family, if they're not hearing the show live, I'll put them onto it where they can, catch it on the internet later. Some of the guys touched on stuff that was so, very observant to them. Like Owen, he was an overachiever, and he does have a legacy of excellence, and his Children's Hospital Fund is part of that. That lives on. His children, Oj and Athena, live on. They're great kids. And Owen could make lemonade out of a lemon. The Hollywood stunt writers or whoever could put their narrow minds together and come up with the most absurd ideas, worse than they did come up with. And Owen could have portrayed those roles in a stunning fashion. There's nothing they could do that he couldn't turn it into something worthwhile or, dynamic. And, he had that ability to do that. Somebody else would be defeated and quit. Owen didn't need a title. He didn't need you give him a ridiculous gimmick. He'd play it to the hilt. He's like my father. He sought a lot of advice from my father, and he acted like my father. He was not easily discouraged, or when somebody played, it didn't make the most of him, he'd turn it around and he'd make the most of it. He was that good. He was just a very confident person, and we all supported Owen. He was almost like, we overlooked him when he was like the 12th, and, we're all doing our things, and he's just like one more kid in diapers around the house. But, he was as great as any of us, or maybe the greatest of all of us. Maybe next year it'll be a bigger and even greater tribute to him a dozen years from now, the 12th anniversary of this tragedy. And I'm sure out there's people even now thinking about maybe donating money to Owen's charity, the Children's Hospital Fund in Calgary, Alberta. And, that's one way they can do that. It's something that's very important, regardless of who started it.
And we'll be sure to put the link up for Owen's Foundation on the website, on the False Count Radio website and the Wrestling Soups website. Yeah. We do actually have Ron Gaff on the line. Ron, I know you have a couple of memories you'd like to share. We have a few minutes, so go ahead.
Yes, I do, actually. My very first contact with Owen, actually it started when I was a teen, and I'd go to the shows in Toronto every 3 weeks or so, and he was introduced the first time through Paul DeMarco, who has been the Canadian president for many years. And then when I first took him to the airport, my car was parked miles away. He says, "Where did you park, in Hamilton?" So, and that's how our friendship started. And through the years, we had many happy times, and I can recall spending time with him in Hartford with him. as far as traveling with him, went from Hartford, we went into Pittsburgh. I got a really funny story to tell you. One of my recollections from being with him is we were in traveling from Erie to from Pittsburgh to Erie, and I had Owen in the car. And this was the storyline when Owen and Bret had their feud, and so I get pulled over by a state trooper thinking that I was speeding, and there was another row of wrestlers that were ahead of us, and so the trooper pulled us over, and he looked at Owen and he said, "You betrayed your brother." So I was laughing my head off, and he was like, his face was all red. He said, "Yeah, I did." So here I am in the States being pulled over by a trooper. I've never been pulled over at all by a cop, and here I go. What am I going to do? How am I going to pay this speeding ticket? You know. So thankfully, the trooper said, "Don't worry." First of all, he said that, "You don't mind signing an autograph for my son, do you?" He says, "Don't worry, I'm not giving you a ticket." So that had to be one of the best road trip stories that I've had with him. There are so many that I can tell you what stuff he's done, not as far as ribs with the wrestlers, but with myself.
Well, I'd like to thank you for joining us. Smith, do you have anything you want to say to Ron before we let him go?
Oh, Ron's been a great wrestling fan, a real supporter of the business and the Hart family, and we love Ron dearly. And Mankind made a lot of reference to Ron in one of his books, and it was quite amusing.
Well, thank you, Ron, for joining us. And
Thank you,
Smith, we have about a minute left. Is there anything you want to say to our listeners or to any of the people that joined us today?
Well, bless all of their hearts. I know when the event was happening, I wasn't even watching it. Some of my family were up at Diana's house. She lived just above my father at the time, and she had
90 seconds.
I got a call from one of my protégés, Jimmy Dostal, a good friend of Phil Watson, Wicker Watson's son, and he says, "I think your brother really got injured badly." And I said, "Come on, Jimmy, you know, I taught you from the ground up, you know, it's what it's all about, you know." And I said, "Owen's as sure-footed as a cat. He'd be, don't worry about it." He said, "Well, I think he really got hurt. I can't tell if they shut it all off. Did you hear anything?" I said, "No." Well, my parents were just, we got a second call from Martha saying that something really serious had happened. So I felt like an idiot having dismissed it so lightly, you know, but I still couldn't, none of us could believe that it was tragic, you know, just, you know, and we didn't know if it was accidental or, you know, intentional or what, you know, but I actually, you know, couldn't see Owen of anybody, you know, misguiding any, you know, misjudging anything or hurting himself, you know, and of course it was just a simple matter. He wasn't hooked up when he fell. When he left the platform, he was not hooked up. The snap didn't break. He may have been hooked up at one time, but when he left off there, he was free falling all the way down and knew it.
Yeah.
It's on the internet.
Now, you know, before we close, I have one last quote that I found that I wanted to bring up, and it's there's a little bit of the Blue Blazer in all of us, and in fact, he is right. There is a little bit of the Blue Blazer. No, there's a little bit of Owen Hart in each of us. With that being said, fans, you've listened to this Owen Hart Tribute Radio Show, and we're going to go out this way.